for some reason 3D players be talking smack on 2D players. That's what.
Justin Wong, I respect him highly, but I disagree. Because what's going on, YouTube? Aussie back with another one. Ex-Tekken veteran, ex-Tekken event organizer. And you know what? I came across this video and I found this video so fascinating of two world champions talking about which game is harder. Before anything, let's play the video.
2D is different, 3D is different. If he comes to Tekken, it's...
It's Amy talking crazy.
Come on. Well, what?
Even though...
No, because we had a discussion.
Yeah, I love
because
this.
he beat me in Street Fighter. He told me that he's gonna be playing Tekken.
Yes.
But he didn't play.
I have no time.
Exactly.
I have no time.
Exactly. So,
Yo, Steve, for some reason 3D players be talking smack on 2D players. That's what.
That's crazy. Look, as you know me, I'm
Yo.
universal.
You agree with that,
I
right?
3D is harder than 2D.
Yeah, it's the same. Wait, did you say 3D is
Wait,
harder?
wait.
No,
Yeah, 3D is harder.
You think 2D's harder?
No, 3D is harder.
3D's harder? What? Go ahead. Say your piece real quick. I'm gonna get back to the topic.
Look, man, I'm a mind game player. I'm a mental stack player. The mental stack in 3D games, there's so many options. They don't really got them like that. You know, I'm saying like these players, they have so many patterns.
That's facts.
That I'm not even a top player at the game, and I see how they roll. I see how they tech. Like their side steps. Like even the grand finals yesterday, Atif had won the round. I saw him running. I was like, he's gonna sidestep and kill him. Exactly what happened.
Yep.
So what I'm trying to say is, I think they're more technical. They have more options because of the game, the way it's built, right? But the mental stack, the mind game, you have to have it 2D when it's like rock, paper, scissors. How am I going to guess right 15 times in a row? I don't know, man. I feel like...
It's the same.
No, but
It's the same with 3D implementation.
It's the same with 3D implementation, but
Okay, before we go anywhere, let's make it crystal clear what each one is talking about. Arslan's point is fundamentally a knowledge argument. He's not saying Tekken players are smarter. He's saying the floor of what you need to know to compete in Tekken is way higher. That's it. He's not really articulated himself. He's not that kind of person. Now, MenaRD's argument is more of a purity argument. He's saying that in 2D, the mental game is distilled, right? So it's clean, direct, two players standing across from each other, making reads, no noise, no extra layers. And he gives that example of rock, paper, scissors 15 times in a row at the highest level of human execution. That's his point. Both of the things are true, but only one of them describes a harder game. And to understand why, let's go a bit deeper.
But the mental stack, the mind game, you have to have it 2D when it's like rock, paper, scissors. How am I going to...
So let's debunk this rock, paper, scissors argument, right?
Right, 15 times in a row.
So he says 15 times in a row. Now, this is a very interesting, right? Because that he uses the rock, paper, scissors analogy. On surface level, it kind of sounds deep, and maybe it might be deep for Street Fighter. I don't personally think so. In classic rock, paper, scissors, right? You have three options. In Street Fighter's neutral, right? You have maybe 5 to 7 meaningful decisions at any given moment within the round. How many moves does Guile has? He has Sonic Boom. He has Flash Kick. He's got the low. Like, how many moves? We have to take that into consideration. Why? Someone like Yoshimitsu's got 150 moves. You walk forward, you walk back, you poke, whiff, punish, jump, throw, reversal. That's real. That's legitimate death. No one's denying that. But now you have to ask yourself, what does Tekken's version of rock, paper, scissors look like? This is where they didn't really articulate this in the argument. They moved on because in any given moment in Tekken, you have to sidestep left or right. And those are different because moves track differently to each direction. Yeah. So duck or stand for the high-low game, that's one. Block or take the risk of a parry, with punish, delay a string or don't delay a string. And now in Tekken 8, there's so many force 50-50s, which I disagree with. You go to the wall, then you have to deal with wall pressure. Now, I'm not saying Street Fighter doesn't have wall pressure. It does. It really does, right? But Tekken's one is much higher. You can re-wall splat. So MenaRD is right to a certain extent when he says Street Fighter is rock, paper, scissors to a certain degree. But Tekken is rock, paper, scissors with twice as many options. Also 15 times in a row. More options per decision. Same frequency of decisions. The mental load is objectively larger, in my opinion. And his argument is just because it's more doesn't mean it's harder. But here's the part that really matters. In Street Fighter, those 5 or 6 options are relatively accessible. You can start applying them at an intermediate level. In Tekken, you can't even get to rock, paper, scissors until you've built a knowledge base that takes months, maybe even years. And, you know, I don't want to get into the execution part of it. I know both games have execution. Now, I grew up on 2D. I'm not denying what MenaRD is saying, but the analogy that he's using is kind of flawed. So
I want to be in the
picture
in
like
the
this.
ground.
Keep it in mind, it wouldn't matter what game it was. You're saying Arslan, even if Mena bought his intensity to Tekken. And
Nah,
you
like,
said,
it's 2D is different, 3D is different. If he comes to Tekken, it's
Yeah.
you got
Yeah,
to
it's-
they be talking crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, come on.
Well, what?
even now.
No, because we had a discussion. We had a discussion.
Yeah, I love
because he
this.
beat me
I
in Street
love
Fighter. He told me that he gonna be playing Tekken.
Yes.
But he didn't play.
I have no time.
So look, he invited him out. Look, Arslan Ash went over to Street Fighter. He whooped him on Street Fighter. He goes, look, come to Tekken. Now, you see this argument? It's a bit like MMA versus boxing, yeah? I'm a pugilistic fan, yeah? I love fighting games. Now, I see boxers trying to say, yeah, boxing is harder than MMA. How? MMA is a real fight, and Tekken is the closest thing to a real fight. Forget the fantasy fight, a real matchup, yeah? So his argument doesn't make sense here, because in boxing you have a jab, you have a left hook, you have a right hand, you have an overhand right, you have body shots, yeah? You have haymakers. You might throw in an elbow if you're dirty. In MMA, you got takedown, you got wrestling, you got elbows. It's so you got knees. MenaRD's argument here is, you know, the fact that he's ducked him. Now there was a Mortal Kombat player, I forgot his name. He tried to come over to Tekken, and he got his ass kicked because, yeah, Tekken is a hard ass game.
If for some reason 3D players be talking smack on 2D players, that's what.
Justin Wong, I respect him highly, but I disagree. Okay, what Arslan Ash is saying, yeah, let's break down what Arslan Ash is saying. He's saying MenaRD will lose if he came to Tekken. And I want to be specific about this because it's not an insult. It's just the reality of how 3D fighters work. In Tekken, guys, yeah, knowledge isn't supplementary. You need to understand that. It's load bearing. You need to know which of your opponent's moves is punishable. And there's so many moves. And exactly what frame deficit is. You need to know frame data. You need to know which moves track left or right. Because the wrong sidestep gets you killed. Imagine that. One wrong sidestep. For example, a electric. You don't sidestep the right way, you're done. So you need to know also which strings have a built-in delay option. I don't know if Street Fighter 6 has that. You need to know your wall positioning at all times. What does that remind you of? MMA. Make sure you don't go up against the cage. Yes, in boxing as well. You need to know. But Street Fighter is linear. Tekken is linear now, but in Tekken 4 wasn't linear. In my opinion, in Street Fighter, a Street Fighter player with great game instincts and natural reads can go really far in the game, yeah? Without even like deep system knowledge. The game rewards talent faster, while Tekken is unforgiving. I'm not saying that's a weakness. That's the design philosophy, because when we're comparing difficulty, guys, yeah? The game that requires more knowledge just to participate in the real game is the harder one. In UFC, you need more knowledge. Think about it this way. How do we break this down? Imagine you sat down at a poker table where half the deck was in a language you never studied, yeah? Hypothetical. You can still play, but you're at a structural disadvantage because it has nothing to do with your reads or instincts. It's just a hypothetical. That's what it feels like to enter Tekken without knowledge base. And MenaRD is a genius at reads. No doubt. This guy is a genius. He will be phenomenal at whatever he puts his mind to, right? But reads require knowing what you're reading first. And you kind of, with Street Fighter, you kind of know what's coming. In Tekken, it's not like that. Now, let's talk about something that really doesn't get debunked. And that is the third axis. 3D. Sidestepping in Tekken. This is the main thing that changes everything. He actually says, oh, I knew Arthif was going to get killed when Arthif came in running. He had the round one and he came in running and he launched him, right? Sidestepping in Tekken is not just a cool mechanic. It fundamentally reshapes every interaction in the game. In Street Fighter, you can't sidestep. You're always on the same horizontal plane with your opponent, right? The only axis you're managing is distance. Yeah? Are you poking, your range, your sweep, footsies, whatever you want to call it. That's one dimension of positioning. In Tekken, you're managing a full three-dimensional plane. You're thinking about distance and angle. Also, what I would say to MenaRD, aren't you forgetting we had Akuma in Tekken 7? And look how the 3D element just destroyed that, where you could sidestep his Hadoukens. That alone should tell you Tekken is way harder. Is my opponent on a linear move that I can step? This is what's going on in Tekken. Which direction can I step? Because if I step the wrong way, I might get launched. And that's it. One mistake. Am I near a wall? If I sidestep, I might get hit again. And that's what makes this argument complex, because the tracking properties of moves are not visible in the game. You can't look at a move and see a little arrow that says this tracks left. It doesn't tell you. Tekken shows you its homing moves now. They made it more prominent in Tekken 8 with the green arrow. So you got to learn this. You got to lab this against every single character. Look at the roster in Tekken 8 and then recall it in real time under immense pressure, which Arslan Ash has done, and he's taken down Knee at Evo so many times. You got to manage all of this with heat and your opponent's tendencies. I don't know. No, in my opinion, MenaRD talks about the mental game of Street Fighter, and I agree it's deep. I'm not denying it's not deep, but he's playing the mental game on one-dimensional board. That's where the argument is flawed. Tekken players are playing it on a 3D dimension, 2-dimension. That's not an option, guys. That's geometry, right? Now, I want to talk about execution, and I want to be fair in this argument. The reason I leaned more towards Tekken, growing up on Street Fighter, we know Street Fighter it has legacy over Tekken. But the reason I leaned towards Tekken, because it felt more realistic as a psychological warfare. It felt harder. I always went down the route of harder, whether it's in the gym. Some people like to take certain things. I chose a hard way. No, I don't want to do that. I'd rather choose the hard path. Oh, lightweight? No, let's go heavy. And I feel that's what Tekken is. So in terms of raw execution, the physical demand of inputs in Tekken, Street Fighter has historically had a higher ceiling in certain areas. Quarter circles, half circles, charge partitioning, like the one-frame links in older titles. The manual dexterity required at the top level of Street Fighter is not something I'm going to dismiss, because what Daigo done against Justin Wong, that execution, that's what made Evo, right? So we're not taking that away. Tekken hasn't had that moment. Street Fighter, everyone knows Street Fighter and they know what's going on. Anyone can watch Street Fighter and have minimal knowledge and be like, oh, Hadouken, oh, spinning bird kick, oh, Shoryuken. How many moves does Ryu use? 3, 4? If we're talking about purely finger dexterity, 2D has an argument, no doubt, because Zangief's moves, some of Zangief's grabs are so hard. Like Akuma's Raging Demon, that's not an easy move to do. I'll grant that. No worries. But here's why that doesn't change my overall answer. Fighting game difficulty isn't about hands, right? It's about your hands and your brain in conjunction, working simultaneously under pressure. Tekken has that. I'm sorry, guys. Tekken is way harder than Street Fighter. And the brain load in Tekken is so much higher than it compensates for any other execution gap. If I was sitting at the table, I would have put these points across. Tasty Steve, he needs to shut up and just let the champions talk, He's trying to make it about himself. Let the champions talk, because this argument was so interesting, guys. I was so interested in this debate. When they said at the end, yeah, Street Fighter, Tekken is 3D with Street Fighter implementation. No, I disagree, because the conditioning in Street Fighter is deep. We ain't taking that away. Training your opponent to react a certain way and then breaking the conditions at the perfect moment is one of the most elegant things in all fighting games. MenaRD's built his career on this. I've been watching him now. So he's a student of the game in that way that very few players are. But grabs, we didn't even talk about grabs, how there's so many different grabs now in the older Tekken. A 1 grab, a 2 grab, a 1+2 grab. There were so many grabs. How many grabs does Street Fighter have? Like Let me know in the comments. Tekken tests every single fortitude. I can't put it any more than that. Your skill, your speed, your tenacity, your patience, your reactions, your knowledge. Tekken has this, but in abundance. You get the same mental game with Tekken, but with more prerequisites. Okay. So let's bring this home. MenaRD said Tekken players have more technical options, yeah? I think what he's actually describing without realizing it is that Tekken's depth is front-loaded into knowledge and system mastery, right? While Street Fighter's depth, I'll say, is more concentrated in the mental game, in the neutral battle, yeah? Both are actually real forms of depth. We can't deny that. I don't think there would be Tekken without Street Fighter. Like, I have to be honest. But when you add this up, Tekken requires knowledge, guys. Move list comprehension. Like, you need to know 150 moves, Yoshimitsu. You need to know every character's 10-hit combo. Like, I can go on. Honestly, I genuinely can go on. Does Street Fighter have 10-hit combos? No, I don't think so. Because the total cognitive and mechanical demand of Tekken ceiling is just higher. I'm sorry. And Arslan Ash, I felt sorry for him here. But 7-time Evo champion. Who was that Mortal Kombat player? I don't know who he is. Yeah, he wears the Sonic outfit. He tried to come into Tekken and he got his ass kicked. Justin Wong can't compete in Tekken. I would whoop these guys' ass. I'll tell you that straight. Justin Wong, whoever, the Mortal Kombat guy, I'd whoop him. Honestly, I would. And look, that's not a diss. That's just the reality of what my experience with Tekken is over the years. You don't play Tekken, guys. You don't play Tekken. And that's just the reality of what Tekken teaches you. The rock, paper, scissors analogy is real, but in Tekken, the scissors have 3 blades and they all can kill you. So guys, look, that's my breakdown. I'll try to debunk it and I'll try to be impartial as much as possible, right? That's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment. Give the video a like and hit the subscribe button, guys. It really helps out the channel. Ozzy is out. Peace.